Yesterday we added polynomials. Today we're going to multiply them. So let's start out doing what we did in 7.3 and let's do some multiplication for your warm-up. The first one, remember, same base. If you have the same base, you add the exponents. You'd have 2 to the 3 plus 4, which is 2 to the 7th. For B, you have to multiply and you get 5 to the 6th. For C, we just get to use distribution. So you're going to distribute -4 to all three terms. One term, two terms, three terms. So you have -8x squared. -4 times -5 is positive 20x. -4 times a -7 is positive 28. Remember your exponent rules for multiplication. If you multiply two terms with a common base, what can you do to their exponents? You add them. Notice these are two monomials. One term, one term. There's no addition or subtraction, meaning it's all one term. One term, one term, one term, one term, one term. So all we need to do is, I like to use my commutative property. Use commutative. Property. Rearrange. So I'm going to put my coefficients out front. 6 times 3 times y cubed times y to the 5th. 6 times 3 is 18. Y to the 3 plus 5 gives me 8. And I am done. Let's try the next one. Again, let's use the commutative property. 3 times 9, my two coefficients. Let's put our m's, m, which is really m to the first, times n squared, times m squared, times n squared, and just plain old n, which again is to the first. So 3 times 9 is 27. M to the first times m squared. When I multiply these, I get 1 plus 2 is m cubed. N to the second times n to the first is also n cubed. Now, number 3, we have some fractions. Yay, we finally get to use some. So again, let's use our commutative. 1/4 times, I'm going to put in parentheses, -12. Let's put our s's together. S squared times s times t squared times t squared. 1/4 times -12 is -3 s cubed, because he has an exponent of 1. And then 2 and 2, we get t to the 4th. Now, the next 3, it says multiplying a monomial, one term, by a polynomial, which could be one or more terms. All you do is my favorite, you distribute to each term. So you're going to be doing a lot of multiplying. So for example 1, when you multiply each term, you have 4 times 3x squared, so you get 12x squared. 4 times 4x, and you get plus 16x. And then 4 times -8 is minus 32. Now the second one, I'm going to write both of them. I'm going to write my PQ in red and each of these terms in black when I do my distribution. So when I distribute my 6PQ, I have 6PQ times 2P, and then it's a negative Q, so I'm going to stick my negative out front. 6PQ times that second term of Q. And now you get to do your multiplication. So now I'm going to multiply, and I'll have 6 times 2 is 12. P times P is P squared, Q, minus 6P Q squared. Notice I did the 6PQ by each individual term. This time, I'm going to be multiplying 1/2 x squared y. I like to show and circle to show that it's really being multiplied by each of those. So we have 1/2 x squared y times 6xy plus, because it's two positives, 1/2 x squared y times our second term, which was 8x squared y squared. So again, now we just multiply each individual monomial within the polynomial. 1/2 times 6 is 3. X squared times x is x to the first. 2 plus 1 is x cubed. Y times y is y squared. Plus 1/2 times 8 is 4. X squared times x squared is x to the fourth. Y times y squared is just y cubed. So that's when you multiply a monomial, just distribution. Well, guess what? When you multiply a binomial times a binomial, so two terms by two terms, what do you think you do? It's my favorite. Again, you just distribute. Only this time you get to distribute twice. So let's first distribute our x. So if we have x plus 1 times x plus 3. Always look at the first. Let's distribute the x. X is not being multiplied by 1. X is added to 1. So you don't distribute to that. You distribute to what it's multiplied by. So you have x times x, x times positive 3, so plus 3x. Now multiply our positive 1. So positive 1 times x is plus 1x. Positive 1 times a positive 3 is plus 3. So we multiplied. Now let's combine like terms. So we have x times x is x squared. Positive 3x plus 1x is plus 4x plus 3. Let's do number 2. We'll take 2x. It's added to 4, not multiplied. They're two different terms. It's multiplied to 3x. So you have 2x times 3x. 2x times positive 2 is positive 4x. Now we can take our 4 times 3x. So we get plus 12x. And our 4 times 2 plus 8. Again, let's combine like terms. When we do that, 2 times 3 is 6. X times x is x squared. Positive 4x plus 12x is plus 16x plus 8. Let's go down to number 3. Multiply x, not by the negative 2 because that's subtracted. X times x. Hopefully you're starting to get the hang. X times x is x squared. X times positive 6, always look at your sign to the left, is plus 6x. Now we're going to multiply our negative 2 times x, and you get negative 2x. Negative 2 times a positive 6, this time is a negative 12. And let's combine our like terms. X squared we already simplified. X squared. Positive 6x minus 2x is plus 4x minus 12. One more of these guys, number 4. We have 2 negatives this time. Pretty awesome, but that's okay. You're ready for the challenge. You have 3x times 2x. So when we do 3x times 2x, 3x times negative 5 is negative, so you get a minus there, negative 15x. Now let's multiply not 1 through, but negative 1. I always circle the sign to the left. I'm going to make a note. Circle, sign to the left. Because then you know what you're multiplying by. Negative 1 times 2x. Negative 2x. Negative 1 times negative 5 is positive 5. So now when we combine our like terms, we have 3 times 2 is 6x squared. Negative 15x minus 2x is negative 17x plus 5. So that's what we get when we do that multiplication. Well, when we multiplied a binomial times a binomial, we multiplied two things. Now if we're doing a binomial times a trinomial, which will be next, please add this number 5, sorry about that. If you have this, you need to write everything inside of here twice. Write inside. Write everything on the inside twice because it's squared. So you have x minus 4 times x minus 4. Now you have no exponent. So now you do x times x is x squared. X times negative 4 is minus 4x. Negative 4 times x is again minus 4x. Negative 4 times negative 4 is positive 16. So now when you combine your like terms, you get x squared minus 8x plus 16. Now we're going to multiply a binomial times a trinomial. And all we do is instead of multiply two things by 2, you multiply them 2 by 3. So you would do x times 3x squared. X times negative 4x, so it's going to be negative 4x squared. X times positive 3 is plus 3x. Now let's multiply the other side. 2 times 3x squared, so plus 2 times 3x squared. 2 times negative 4x is going to be negative 8x. And 2 times 3 is plus 6. I'm going to simplify some of these. So I'm going to get 3x cubed, because I have x to the first and x squared, and you add the two together, minus 4x squared plus 3x plus 6x squared minus 8x plus 6. So we definitely have some combining of like terms that we can do. X cubed, we're good. We have to make sure it's in standard form as well. So cubed is the highest. So we have 3x squared. Now let's look at our squares, or x cubed. I don't like it was two different colors. 3x cubed. And we have negative 4x squared, looking at your sign to the left, plus 6x squared is plus a positive 2x squared. Positive 3x minus 8x is a negative 5x, and then you have your plus 6 left over. Okay. Let's try B. Again, we have three things that we're multiplying. So we have x times negative x squared. I'm right a good way going to say, well, it's negative. And if we have x times negative x squared, it's just going to be 1 plus 2 is negative x cubed. So we have negative x cubed. X times negative 4x, you can do it right up here. X times negative 4x is going to be negative 4x squared. So minus 4x squared. X times negative 2 is just negative 2x. Now let's distribute our negative 3. Negative 3 times negative x squared. So if you do negative 3 times negative x squared, you get positive 3x squared. So you get plus 3x squared. Negative 3 times negative 4x is plus 12x. And negative 3 times negative 2 is plus 6. Again, let's go ahead and combine some like terms. In our x cubed, there's only one, so it's negative x cubed. Negative 4x squared plus 3x squared is negative x squared. Negative 2x plus 12x is plus 10x, and then plus a 6. The last example I want to set up is instead of it being squared, now you have it cubed. So you want to write it 3 times. So you have x plus 3 times x plus 3 times x plus 3. So we want to multiply it 3 times. So I'm going to first multiply these two and then worry about him. So I have x times x, which is x squared. X times 3, which is plus 3x. 3 times x, which is plus 3x. 3 times 3, which is plus 9. This whole thing is multiplied by x plus 3. So when I combine my like terms, I have x squared plus 6x plus 9 times x plus 3. Isn't this exactly what we just did? So now you're going to multiply your your binomial by your trinomial. Remember the commutative property? I'd rearrange this and make it x plus 3 times x squared